You know that feeling, do not you? The one that pulls you out of sleep like a fire alarm. One moment you are dreaming, the next you are staring into the dark, feeling that urgent pull deep in your pelvis. Again. You shuffle to the bathroom, again. You lie back down and watch the clock, again. 2, 3, sometimes 4 trips a night. By morning, you are not rested. You are exhausted. You start planning errands around bathrooms. You scan every restaurant for where the restroom is. You feel like you are slowly losing control of your own body, one broken night at a time. People tell you that is just getting older. But what if it is not just age? What if your nightly misery is being fed quietly 3 times a day by foods you have been told are healthy? Today, we talk about 3 everyday dairy foods that may be quietly keeping your prostate irritated and swollen, and what you can choose instead. Let us begin with the part almost no one explains clearly: the bathroom trips, the slow starting stream, the feeling that you can never quite empty, the burning impatience as you stand there waiting. These things are not random. They are not just the universe playing a bad joke on men over 50. They are signals from a small, overworked gland that is asking for help. Your prostate sits just below your bladder, wrapped like a ring around the urethra, the little tube that carries urine out. When you were younger, it was smaller, softer, more flexible. As you age, for many men, it thickens and swells. Sometimes that is from harmless growth. Many times, it is from low-level inflammation, a kind of internal irritation that never fully settles down. Imagine the opening of a garden hose. If someone squeezes that opening with their hand, the flow slows, the pressure builds, and the hose has to work harder. That is what your bladder is doing every time it pushes urine through a narrowed channel. It squeezes, strains, spasms. You feel that as urgency, dribbling, and frequent trips. Most of the focus falls on medicines that relax the muscles or shrink the gland a little. Those can be helpful, and you should never stop or change a prescription without speaking to your doctor. But there is another piece to this puzzle that often gets ignored: the constant irritation that keeps the gland swollen in the first place. Inflammation is like a low, rumbling fire. It is not dramatic, but it keeps an area hot, swollen, and tender. If that fire burns in your prostate, even a small trigger can make your symptoms worse. One of the most common triggers sits in front of you every day on your table or in your fridge. Cow's milk products? This is not about blaming you for what you eat. You were told milk builds strong bones. You were told low-fat dairy is healthy for your heart. You may even have reached for cottage cheese or skim milk in an effort to do the right thing. No one said this might be stirring up your prostate. Today, you are going to hear a different view. We will look at how certain dairy foods are designed by nature to make babies grow fast, why that same design can spell trouble for an enlarged prostate, and which specific 3 dairy culprits are most likely to keep your nights broken. Then we will talk about gentle, realistic swaps that still keep you full and satisfied without constantly poking that sensitive gland. This is not a miracle cure or a replacement for medical care. It is a piece of the puzzle you can control with your fork and your cup, day by day. To understand why certain dairy foods can bother your prostate, it helps to step back and think about what cow's milk is meant to do in nature. A mother cow does not produce milk for fun. She produces it for one reason: to turn a small, fragile calf into a large, heavy animal as quickly and safely as possible. That means her milk is not just a drink. It is a growth instruction. It carries proteins, sugars, fats, minerals, and powerful growth signals that tell the calf's cells grow, divide, build more tissue. For a young growing body, That is exactly what you want. Now picture yourself as a full-grown man, long past your growing years. Your bones are finished stretching. Your organs are fully formed. When you pour a glass of cow's milk over your cereal or eat a bowl of dairy-based food, you are taking in those same growth signals designed for rapid development. Your body will use part of that for energy and maintenance. But some tissues are more sensitive to growth messages than others. The prostate is one of them. Prostate cells can respond strongly to hormonal and growth signals, especially over time. When they hear grow, multiply over and over, year after year, they can thicken and expand more than they need to. The result is that tight, crowded ring around your urethra. Milk does not stop at growth signals. It also carries a major protein called casein. Casein forms the curds in cheese. It is dense, sticky, and for many adult digestive systems, hard to handle in large amounts. When your gut has trouble breaking casein completely into tiny, harmless pieces, your immune system can get involved. It looks at these lingering, partly digested fragments and sounds the alarm. That alarm is inflammation. Inflammation from the gut does not politely stay in the gut. The inflammatory chemicals and immune signals travel through the bloodstream, looking for places to land. Any tissue that is already stressed, congested, or hormonally sensitive becomes an easy target. The prostate fits all three, so you have a double effect. Growth messages encouraging the gland to thicken, and inflammatory messages keeping it puffy and irritated. Not every man reacts the same way. Some can drink a glass of milk and never notice. Others have a prostate that responds strongly. If you are waking several times a night, if your doctor has told you your prostate is enlarged, it may be worth asking whether your daily dairy routine is feeding the problem. Not all dairy is equal in this story. A splash of cream in coffee is not the same as a tall glass of skim milk. A small piece of naturally aged cheese is not the same as a block of ultra-processed slices. What matters is how concentrated the growth signals and casein are, and how altered the product is by industrial processing. In the next parts, we will look at 3 of the most common dairy habits that quietly deliver a high, steady stream of these signals. Then we will break down what you can reach for instead, so you are not left hungry or short on protein while you let your prostate finally calm down. For years, you were told to cut the fat. Full-fat milk was painted as the villain for your heart. Skim milk, with the cream removed, was presented as the smart, safe choice. Maybe you switched from whole to skim in your coffee. Maybe you poured it over your cereal, thinking you were doing your arteries a favor. Here is the twist no one mentioned. When you strip out most of the fat from milk, you do not remove the growth signals or the casein. In fact, by volume, you concentrate them. The watery liquid left behind still carries the hormones and growth factors nature put there for the calf, but now without the buffering effect of the fat. It is like turning down the volume on one channel and turning it up on another. Skim milk also tends to be higher in milk sugar per cup compared to heavy cream. That sugar raises blood sugar and insulin more quickly. For some men, especially those with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, higher insulin levels go hand in hand with more hormonal activity in tissues like the prostate. So with each glass of skim milk, you may be delivering a quick sugar surge, a concentrated growth nudge, and a good hit of casein, all at once. Your gut has to wrestle with the casein. Your immune system may respond with low-level inflammation. Your prostate sits downstream, soaking in that environment. If you are used to skim milk several times a day, the first step is not to panic. It is to get curious. What would your day look like without those glasses? What could replace them? For many men, unsweetened plant milks make a simple swap. Unsweetened almond milk or soy milk in coffee still gives a creamy feel without the same growth signals. Unsweetened oat milk can work on cereal as long as you choose a version with no added sugar and watch your portion if you are managing blood sugar. If you feel you tolerate small amounts of dairy but want to cut back on the constant flow, you may decide to keep a tiny splash of real cream in your coffee and drop the big glasses of skim. Cream is higher in fat, lower in casein, and often used in much smaller amounts. But if your symptoms are severe, starting with a full 30-day break from all cow's milk may give you the clearest picture of how your body responds. The key point is this: skim milk is not neutral. It is not just milk without guilt. For an aging prostate that is already thickened and sensitive, it can be a daily irritant in a thin white disguise. Now let us talk about a food that many men reach for when they are trying to eat better. Cottage cheese. On paper, it sounds perfect. High in protein, low in fat, easy to scoop into a bowl. You can eat it plain, with fruit, with vegetables. It feels like a smart, responsible lunch or snack. But remember casein, the curd protein that tends to be harder for adult guts to process. Cottage cheese is, by design, mostly curds. The manufacturing process separates the liquid whey from the solid curds. The curds are where most of the casein lives. When you sit down to a generous bowl of cottage cheese, you are giving your body a concentrated load of casein in one go. If your digestive system is robust and your prostate quiet, you may never notice. If your gut is already a little touchy, if you have a history of bloating, gas, or food sensitivities, and if your prostate is enlarged, that steady stream of casein can be like pouring fuel on a low-burning fire. Your gut struggles to break it down. Your immune system sends out inflammatory messengers. Your prostate, already delicate, receives that message as more swelling and irritation. This does not mean protein itself is the problem. Your body still needs protein to maintain muscle, support healing, and keep your immune system strong. The goal is to swap the type and source of protein, not to starve yourself of it. Instead of getting your protein from dense casein curds, you can spread your protein intake through the day using gentler sources. For example, a piece of baked fish at lunch, a serving of beans or lentils with dinner, or some collagen powder whisked into a smoothie. Collagen provides amino acids that support connective tissue, including pelvic muscles, without the same casein load. If you like the idea of a soft, spoonable protein, consider a lactose-free Greek yogurt or a plant-based yogurt made from soy, as long as it is unsweetened and you tolerate soy well. These can provide protein with a different profile, often easier on the gut for some people. One powerful experiment is to take a full month away from cottage cheese and similar curd-heavy dairy foods, such as some types of farmer cheese or very dense fresh cheese, while keeping the rest of your diet stable. During that month, keep a simple log of your nighttime bathroom trips and how urgent they feel. Some men are surprised to see that just removing daily bowls of cottage cheese leads to fewer wake-ups and a calmer bladder. Again, not everyone reacts in the same way. But if you are one of the men whose body does react, that one change can feel like someone turned down the volume on a constant internal buzzing. The third dairy habit that often sneaks into a prostate-sensitive life comes wrapped in shiny plastic. Processed cheese slices, cheese spreads, and long shelf life blocks with names like cheese food or cheese product. These are a different creature from a simple piece of natural cheese. To create these ultra-smooth, perfectly melting slices, manufacturers often start with lower-grade dairy, then subject it to high heat, pressure, and mixing. They add emulsifiers to keep the texture uniform, stabilizers to extend shelf life, and colorings to keep it eye-catching. The goal is a product that melts predictably on a burger and does not spoil quickly. The downside is that all this processing changes the protein and fat structures. The combination of high heat and sugars or fats can create new compounds that your body does not recognize as ordinary food. Some of these compounds are known to increase oxidative stress and inflammation. The dense salt content in many processed cheeses adds another layer of strain for your circulation and kidneys. For a prostate that is already swollen, this kind of food is like adding irritation on top of irritation. You are not just getting casein and growth messages, you are getting damaged proteins, excess salt, and a load of additives your system has to sort through. Think about how often these slices show up without you really noticing. Melted on toast, pressed into sandwiches, layered into fast food meals. A little here, a little there, it adds up. The simplest rule is this. If your cheese comes individually wrapped in plastic, has a texture that reminds you of rubber, or melts into a perfectly smooth puddle that looks the same every time, it is better to leave it on the shelf. This does not mean you must banish all cheese forever. Many men can enjoy small amounts of natural, minimally processed cheeses without the same level of trouble. A thin slice of traditionally aged cheese from a reputable source, eaten occasionally, is very different from daily stacks of plastic-wrapped slices. But during a healing phase, especially the first 4 to 6 weeks when you are trying to calm a very inflamed prostate, it can be wise to remove all cheese and then slowly reintroduce only the least processed forms if your symptoms allow. As you simplify your cheese choices, you can add richness and satisfaction back to your meals with non-dairy options. Slices of avocado on a sandwich, a drizzle of olive oil on vegetables, or a handful of nuts on a salad can give you that creamy, satisfying mouthfeel without constantly nudging your prostate. By now, you may be thinking, if I let go of skim milk, cottage cheese, and processed slices, what is left? Will I be hungry? Will I miss my favorites? Those are fair concerns. The goal is not to leave you with an empty fridge. It is to trade 3 foods that may be provoking your prostate for foods that nourish you without constant irritation. For your drinks and cereal, unsweetened plant milks are a good starting point. Almond milk, soy milk, hemp milk, or oat milk without added sugar can all play the part that skim milk did, without the same growth and casein signals. If you rely on milk and coffee, experiment with a splash of oat or soy milk, or a small amount of real cream if your body tolerates it, and your doctor agrees that your heart health allows it. For protein, think variety. Fish like salmon, sardines, and trout give protein along with anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats. Eggs in moderate amounts can still be part of your week if you tolerate them, especially when not combined with large dairy loads. Beans, lentils, and chickpeas offer plant protein and fiber, which support gut health and blood sugar control. Lean poultry and modest portions of high-quality meat can also play a role if you eat them. To replace the role that cottage cheese played as an easy spoonable protein, you might keep cooked lentils or beans in the fridge to scoop onto salads. You can stir a measured scoop of collagen powder into smoothies or soft foods if your healthcare provider approves. Some seniors enjoy a small bowl of plain soy yogurt topped with seeds or fruit as a snack. To replace processed cheese in sandwiches, you can use slices of avocado, hummus, or a thick spread made from blended beans and herbs. These provide creaminess and satisfaction while bringing helpful fats and plant compounds instead of additives and damaged protein. What changes can you realistically hope to notice if you make these swaps and stick with them? Every body is different, and nothing in nutrition is guaranteed. But many men who remove these 3 dairy culprits for a full 4 to 6 weeks report a few common shifts. First, they often wake up fewer times at night to urinate. Maybe 4 trips drop to 2, then sometimes to 1. Second, the urgency may soften. Instead of a sudden panicked rush, there is a bit more time between the signal and the need to go. Third, the stream can feel a little less hesitant, with fewer starts and stops. Beyond the bathroom, some men notice less bloating, less gas, and a calmer gut. That is a sign the casein and processed proteins are no longer stirring up as much digestive irritation. Some describe their pelvis as feeling less heavy or congested, even if they struggle to put words to it. It is important to say this clearly. Dietary changes are not a cure for serious prostate disease. If you have blood in your urine, severe pain, fever, or rapidly worsening symptoms, you must seek medical care immediately. If your doctor has diagnosed you with an enlarged prostate or other prostate condition, these food changes are best used as support alongside, not instead of, their advice. But within that frame, what you choose to eat 3 times a day is one of the few levers that is entirely in your hands. By removing foods that send mixed messages and adding ones that calm rather than provoke, you give your prostate a better environment in which to heal. If you are tired of planning your nights around the bathroom door, of pretending that broken sleep and a weak stream are just how it has to be, you now hold a different possibility in your hands. 3 simple dairy habits, repeated day after day, may be feeding the very gland that keeps you up at night. 3 thoughtful swaps can begin to change that story. You do not have to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. Start with one decision. Maybe you skip the skim milk on your cereal and pour unsweetened almond milk instead. Maybe you leave the cottage cheese on the shelf this week and reach for a bowl of lentil soup. Maybe you unwrap that stack of plastic slices and choose avocado or hummus on your sandwich instead. Give your body a real chance to show you how it responds. Try a full 30 days without skim milk, cottage cheese, and processed cheese products while keeping the rest of your routine steady. Keep a small notebook by your bed and jot down how many times you get up, how urgent it feels, and how rested you feel in the morning. Then bring those notes to your next appointment and talk with your doctor about what you noticed. If this explanation helped you see your plate and your prostate in a new way, imagine how many other men are still stumbling in the dark, literally and figuratively. Share this message with a friend, a brother, or a partner who wakes up just as often as you do. You are not powerless. With a few quiet changes in your kitchen, meal by meal, you can begin to create nights that belong to you again. Nights of deeper rest. Mornings of clearer energy. Days that are planned around what you want to do, not where the nearest restroom is. That is worth every small swap on your grocery list.